What I want to talk about today is how I think that road network will be better, and in fact it will be miles better, if you excuse the pun, as Sue said. And the presentation is going to be fairly straightforward. I'm going to talk about the question that this paper set out to answer, and then I'll say three pillars of miles better that I think that summarize what the proposal is, and I'll highlight 4 ways in which this is different to any previous proposal that has come in the UK. So Prize question that I tried to answer was, how can we pay for better, safer, more reliable roads in a way that is fair to road users, good for the economy and the environment? Now, if you take that in, it's pretty mind-boggling. And when I first saw it, my first reaction was I have absolutely no idea what the answer is, but I also found it intriguing about why would they ask this question. And so I went and started my research, my inquiry. And this chart summarizes the main reason that I thought that Lord Wolfson commissioned last year's prize. The blue line shows revenues for the Treasury, and the green line shows UK vehicle miles, which is, I think, a really good way to capture overall demand for roads. Now, what we can see is that there was a connection in the past. Fuel duty was a pay-as-you-go tax, but it is no longer a good pay-as-you-go tax in that sense. The financial crisis kind of postponed that gap, but now, as the economy is recovering, that is becoming ever more apparent. What this means for all of us who are involved in a CIHT annual conference is that the government has less money coming in from roads, and I think that does have an impact on our future. So this is why the question is really, really relevant to us. So I hope that you will engage in the debate after this as well. This is based on the 2010 to 15 figures, so the past. Now, Steve Gooding from the RAC Foundation, who we met this morning, they've helped a lot, and what they've done is they've done a look at the future. What is the outlook? And this is what it looks like. So, in a nutshell, not great, okay? And this is the very reason what the proposal focuses on is revenues for the road network. I was talking with Stelios in the break earlier, and I put this diagram in. This is like a diagram showing the options in front of government. And what we heartily agreed on is that doing nothing is a decision, and it is a decision that means that either you're going to have a growing deficit in the budget, or you're going to have to cut your spending because you can't sustain decreasing revenues. So that's one option in front of the government, but we thought that there could be a better way, and that's why that's what Miles Better is about. So let's go into the details. What is Miles Better about? The first pillar is it's a sustainable tax that is in line with overall revenues. And this is not a new idea, okay? So if someone says, hang on, you didn't come up with that, I'll say, that's true. It's been around for about 30 years since they first thought about this future problem. And then you ask, okay, what does exactly sustainable mean? Because that's a buzzword that we like, in consulting, we like to put into reports and make it sound like we really know what we're talking about. But what does it mean? And I took the kind of academic principles of sustainability and applied them to the proposal. And so it would take into account how much people use their vehicles, so vehicle miles, the annual mileage of the vehicle. It would have an environmental factor, and it would have a financial component, which we took as how much does this specific vehicle damage the roads, and so it would take into account vehicle weight through driving license categories. This is the same thing in Greek, for any of you who are keen on that, but I'm afraid that maybe in the afternoon at 2 o'clock after lunch, this is not what we're going to talk about. But anyway, in the question and answer, we'll find out whether this is the topic of passion. But either way, this is an idea, and the Treasury can make their own formula. This is what we thought it would look like. This is the second point of Miles Better. The second pillar is insurance companies would be the revenue collecting agents. And I dare say that this is the one original idea of Miles Better that I think essentially caused this proposal to win the Wolfson Prize. This is for several reasons, but I was focused very much on the user experience. I, as a driver, I don't want to have to make additional new payments through new avenues. I want simplicity and bundling. So why not use an existing transaction that all of us who legally drive on the UK roads have to make, which is securing insurance on our car, and put it together, put the tax together with the insurance payment, and bundle it with that. And that was the idea in a nutshell. And there is two, and what this allows is essentially two parallel systems to exist very easily. So we can have a really high-tech system where those of us who have telematics in our car, we can pay in a truly pay-as-you-go manner for exactly as many miles as we've done in the month and get a statement and then pay it that way. Or if we prefer a low-tax solution, we can pay the road tax annually upfront or in a monthly direct debit based on the estimated miles. And that would be important because I didn't want anyone to have to do anything extra, no spy in the cab, which we'll get to later. So this would make it very simple. Now, there is a couple of points on why we thought telematics was good. And it has a potential to reduce collisions and increase road safety. But we can go into this maybe in the question and answer session if this is something that people are passionate about. But the key thing is that it would never be compulsory. It would always be part of a choice, because we thought that choice was something that as consumers we like. So why not give the choice to opt into such a scheme? Potentially for a reduction, a lower payment. So that's the idea, that's the trade-off there. And yeah, this is the statistic, the shocking statistics that led me to think about what we can do to improve the safety amongst young drivers in particular, who are a very vulnerable group in this, which I was part of, but I'm no longer. The third aspect of the proposal is ring fencing, and I think this is a no-brainer for any of us here in the room, and actually the Treasury's already accepted it with the Roads Fund from 2020 going forward. So we just wanted a statutory guarantee that part of the big pot of revenues that the government gets through this single new tax, which I didn't mention, but it would replace fuel duty and vehicle excise duty, so both existing taxes on motoring would be replaced through it. And a part of that big revenue, which is tracking mileage, would be reinvested into the road network. And it would fix this economy. It would restore the link between GDP and economic activity on the very top, increased road traffic, and it would capture it through one revenue source that is linked directly to this. And part of it would go back into the road network, and part of it would be for other government spending, NHS, pensions, and all of those things that we need. So we've got through the three core aspects, and hopefully you have an idea of what I'm talking about. And now I want to highlight the 4 ways in which this scheme is different to anything that's come before, because let's not forget, in 2010 there was a very serious attempt by the then Chancellor to introduce some form of road charging to plug the revenues. And you might have clocked onto this already, but this isn't road pricing. I went to a TPS debate on road pricing. It was, I think, 31st of January, and one of the things that I was thrown at is that it isn't road pricing, and I think that's fine, because what this does is it gives a platform, an opportunity for potentially local authorities to then introduce their own road pricing scheme. For example, the Mayor of London or TFGM may want to then add in the future when every vehicle in a city region has telematics, then they can say, okay, from now on, if you want to use the system, you have to pay an additional charge to enter the city, and that's the point. So it's to provide a platform for going forward in the future. Second is cheap to implement and run. We can get into this, but it would roughly be the same implementation and running cost of the existing 2 taxes. So it wouldn't be an additional cost to the Treasury, and this was very attractive to the Treasury officials. Third, it doesn't affect privacy, because the key thing is that you don't need any additional equipment in your car, and there is no spy in the cab. Finally, it has both a no-tech solution and a high-tech solution. So those like me who want to use telematics to pay a pay-as-you-go tax in a modern way, then we can have that. But we can also have a system which doesn't require smartphones or any other gadget, which 1 in 10 UK citizens don't have and may not be so passionate about as possibly many of us here. So that's the idea. And to conclude, who are the losers? Probably what you've been thinking about, if you have a car, is this is all well and good, but how much will I personally have to pay more for all of this to happen? And what we decided is that there shouldn't be any difference in the overall revenue collected between 2 combined taxes, so fuel duty and vehicle excise duty, and this new tax, so that's good. But individuals themselves, their taxes would be calibrated in such a fashion to minimize the difference between what we have to pay at present in vehicle excise duty and fuel duty and what we'll have to pay in the future. So that's what I want to conclude on, and I'm really looking forward to the debate.